In this week's video, we're going to be discussing hit and runs, or what is technically called leaving after colliding laws in the District of Columbia. If you've ever engaged in a fender bender on the district's notorious traffic-infested streets, this video may very well save you from being arrested one day. Now, by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do if you're involved in an accident in the District of Columbia. And if you happen to be watching this video after you made a split-second bad decision and left the scene of the accident, you're going to know exactly what not to do. Most people think that if you're involved in a car accident in DC, it's okay to just leave a note with your information if you hit a parked car, for example, or to exchange information on the scene with the individual without calling the police. Fortunately, that's not usually enough in most scenarios. The DC leaving after colliding statute sets out requirements for 4 different potential scenarios involving an accident. Scenario 1, you get into an accident and another person is injured. In this scenario, you must call or cause another to call 911, remain on the scene till the cops get there, and provide your information both to the cops and the injured person. Scenario 2, you get into an accident and no one is injured, but there's property damage and the owner is present on the scene. In this scenario, you must provide your information to the owner of the vehicle, and the statute does not specifically require you to wait for the police to arrive as long as it's just property damage. It may, however, make sense to call the police and wait to get a police report in that situation, even though the statute doesn't specifically require it. Now, scenario 3, you get into an accident and no one is injured, but there is property damage and the owner of the vehicle is not present. This is like when you hit a parked car. In this scenario, you must provide or cause another to provide your information and the location of the collision to law enforcement or by calling 911. So if you hit a parked car and the owner is not present, you do need to call the police to take a report. This scenario does not technically require you to remain on the scene so long as you provide your information on the 911 call, but it may be a good idea, again, to go ahead and do that and give the information to the police on the scene. Scenario 4, you get into an accident and the accident causes risk to others. In that scenario, you must call 911 and provide your identifying information, the location of the collision, and describe the nature of the risk posed to others. If you violate any of the above rules, you could be charged with leaving after colliding, which is a misdemeanor under the District of Columbia Code. Getting charged with any crime can always lead to negative consequences, and it's something to try to avoid. A conviction for leaving after colliding where someone is injured or where there's personal injury, this will lead to the DC DMV assessing 12 points on your license, and it will automatically result in license revocation. In addition, if you're convicted for leaving after colliding where there's just property damage, not personal injury, DMV will assess 8 points to your driver's license. Now, keep in mind, in the District of Columbia, if you have a DC license and you reach 11 points in 90 days, it will trigger a suspension. The Office of Attorney General for the District of Columbia prosecutes leaving after colliding charges aggressively. The OAG, as it's called, has jurisdiction over both leaving after colliding property damage and leaving after colliding personal injury charge. The OAG does not typically offer diversion in leaving after colliding cases, although they will do under some circumstances. Several factors may influence whether the government will offer diversion in a leaving after colliding case. These factors include whether the complainant is injured, what the defendant's criminal record is like, and whether the defendant is willing to pay restitution for any damage where there's damage applicable to the vehicle. Now, for more information on what diversion is, we did a previous video where we explained the ins and outs of what diversion is, and you can click on that up here. Now, if you're involved in a hit and run, you may get contacted by the Metropolitan Police Department by phone or by mail. Now, the sad reality is we deal with a lot of cases like this where individuals get into an accident, they initially do the right thing and try to get out and call the police and exchange information with the other driver. However, in some instances, the other driver gets out irate, yelling, screaming, sometimes even threatening, and the other person's kind of flight or flight impulse will kick in and they flee the scene. Now, in those situations, the road raging driver will end up being the one to call the police, take the fleeing driver's license plate, and then basically shape the narrative to the police, conveniently leaving out their own bad behavior that might have caused the driver to flee in the first place. The police will typically find the owner of the vehicle by looking up the license plate and then send a scary letter requesting that person or ordering that person to come to the police station to discuss the incident. They like to send out these scary letters to the owner to make it sound like the fleeing driver has no choice in the matter. These letters will say, "Your failure to comply with this notice may result in the issuance of a warrant for your arrest." What the letter does not say is that if you do follow its instructions, the police will very likely obtain a warrant once you confess to them that you were not only the owner of the vehicle, but you were also the driver who fled the scene. To successfully prosecute a leaving after colliding case, the government prosecutors have to prove a series of elements of the crime. Now, one important element they must prove is the identification of the actual driver of the vehicle that left the scene after colliding. So if MPD contacts you and requests an interview, they want you to come in and admit you were the driver. This typically happens because they cannot prove you're the driver otherwise, and you're just basically doing their work for them and ensuring that they have the evidence they need to get a warrant for your arrest. The police are preying on the fact that you're ignorant of your rights. Citizens are never required to go into a police station and answer questions without having a lawyer present in this country. That is because we enjoy a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. That means we don't have to answer questions that would incriminate us in a crime. It's like you always hear on TV. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Police can lie, manipulate, and try to scare people without any recourse. In these scenarios, the police basically want you to come into the police station and admit that you committed a crime so that they can go out and get a warrant for your arrest. Therefore, anyone involved in a hit and run should immediately consult a qualified DC hit and run lawyer to advise them of their rights and to communicate with the police on their behalf. So if you or a friend or loved one has been contacted by MPD about a hit and run or been charged with leaving after colliding, contact us today for a full consultation. Or if you're interested in learning about legal issues in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel for new videos on useful legal topics each week.